the evolution of the Johnny Depp movie. Johnny Depp, actor, producer, and musician.
I'll give you this all.
Very cool.
Nominated for 3 Academy Awards and won a Golden Globe Award as well. You'll know him as Captain Jack Sparrow.
Not good. Stop! Not good. What are you doing? You burned all the food, the shade, the rum.
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Edward Scissorhands.
I can't.
Sweeney Todd.
Now then, my friend. Now to your purpose.
Yeah, before his acting roles kicked off, Depp began playing in various garage bands. The Kids enjoyed modest local success and set out together for LA in pursuit of a record deal, changing the name to Six Gun Method. But the group split up before signing a record deal, which is kind of sad. Depp subsequently collaborated with the band Rock City Angels and co-wrote their song Mary, which appeared on Rock City Angels' debut album, which is really good. So he always set out to be a musician, never intended to be an actor. Depp's old friend Nick Cage, yeah? They go way back. Nick Cage. Got him into acting, particularly for a movie by the late Wes Craven. A Nightmare on Elm Street. 1984 as Glenn Lantz. Final Girl Nancy's boyfriend, Glenn Lantz. If you have the time, you can check out my evolution of the Freddy Krueger movie I did last year, and the evolution of the Wes Craven movie as well. I've done 2 of them, so if you are a fan of the franchise, then do check them out. The links will be below. But we're going to be focusing much more on Glenn rather than Wes Craven or Freddy. A lot of people don't actually recognise him in this because he's so young. But he starts out in a funny manner. I remember him trying to trick his parents into thinking he's out of town by using a stereo full of sounds.
Yeah, out here at Barry's. Huh? Yeah, noisy as usual.
I remember him trying to be the hero to protect the 2 girls he's with, and ultimately being scared out of his wits in the back garden in the film. But sticking to his most famous parts would be Glenn being called by Nancy on the phone. She's trying to urge him not to fall asleep. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep. I remember being heavily into a song back in the 1990s, which used that segment as a part of a song. I liked it. I'm kind of sad, but they used that clip of Glenn speaking to Nancy to like a song. But it probably was awful.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Then you won't mind cold cocking this guy when I bring him out.
What?
If I remember rightly, you never actually see Johnny Depp's character, Glenn, in a dream. Walking about in a dream, you don't see it. Only the ladies in the first one. As you probably know, he's lying on the bed and he falls asleep. We have the unforgettable scene of him being sucked into his bed, into a hole, and we get the blood, so much blood coming out of the bed. The music in that scene still haunts me too. It harkens back to the Bernard Herrmann score of Psycho. You know, it's got that feel to it with that part of the film. So one of the main reasons Johnny Depp was chosen was because Wes Craven's daughter thought he was dreamy. I'm sure a lot of people can concur with that one. An omen that Johnny Depp's character is about to die occurs as he's lying in bed listening to his radio. The broadcaster announces, "It's midnight." You listen to station KRGR. KRGR is Kruger, without the vowels. No, I know, it's great, that, isn't it? So this was his first role. I'm sure he made a cameo appearance on a later A Nightmare on Elm Street. I will try and find that out for you, but I can't even remember. So Depp's second movie was a short called Dummies. 1985. Not a lot is known about this particular one. He was a character called Pete. Pete.
Pete!
Oi, prick! Saturday Night Live director Laurie Frank made Dummies, and it was in black and white. And if you're a big fan of Depp, you'll know he did another one in black and white. He's done a few. Most notable, Ed Wood, which we will talk about later. He got back into colour screen, finally. Got back into colour screen the same year with Private Resort as Jack Marshall, a fully fledged character, which is always good now, especially in the 80s. The story of two adolescent boys who are guests at a Florida resort for the weekend. Their only interest is, of course, chasing girls. But fate has much more in store for them. The movie also starred Leslie Easterbrook, who I know for being in The Devil's Rejects.
I knew you couldn't stay away. I got the power of man.
And Police Academy as well. That's Leslie Easterbrook. He stepped into television, still in '85, as Lionel Violent in an episode called Beasts of Prey in the Lady Blue TV series. Bit of blue. He's a baddie in this as well. He's a baddie. So it's weird seeing him as the bad guy, especially so early on as well. He was in Charlie Sheen's RPG, 1986, a short. He was Vinnie Doola. Before a TV movie, Slow Burn. It's a film noir presented by Joel Schumacher and directed by Matthew Chapman. You'll know Joel Schumacher from making... He's made some good films, Joel Schumacher, but he's also made the bad Batman movies. He was with Eric Roberts and Beverly D'Angelo in Slow Burn. Depp played teenager Donnie Fleischer.
Oh, okay. Bye.
He was in a pretty big movie the same year. You probably recognise it. Platoon is the next big feature. Platoon, director Oliver Stone. A young soldier in Vietnam faces a moral crisis when confronted with the horrors of war and the duality of man. Johnny was Gator Lerner, a Vietnamese-speaking soldier, and he gets injured in this film. So if he's a heartthrob of yours, you know, be warned. He's only on screen briefly, but he starred alongside other big names as Charlie Sheen, again, Willem Dafoe, Forrest Whitaker, and even John C. McGinley. So that was his first big blockbuster movie that he got involved in. Platoon. Jadoon Platoon upon the moon. Several of the actors wrote messages on their... I love this. Several of the actors wrote messages on their helmets worn throughout the movie. Charlie Sheen's helmet reads, "When I die, bury me upside down so the world can kiss my ass." While Johnny Depp's simply reads, "Sherilyn," a tribute to Sherilyn Fenn, whom Depp was dating at the time. Oh, ain't he sweet? Ain't he lovely? Ain't he lovely? Oliver Stone considered casting Johnny Depp for the lead role of Private Chris Taylor, but Depp was too young for the part and unknown at the time. Stone said that Depp would someday become a huge star. And he was right about that, wasn't he? He was right about that. So in 1987, he was in a TV series called Hotel as Rob Cameron. But this was overshadowed completely and fundamentally by 21 Jump Street. 21 Jump Street, which began that year too. Depp played Tom Hansen, saxophone playing, bowling lover, officer and a gentleman, Tom Hansen, as a babyface that criminals couldn't take seriously. The cases of an undercover police unit composed of young-looking officers specialising in youth crime. That's the centre of 21 Jump Street. He became a teen sensation with this role, plastered over every teen magazine across the country. Johnny Depp and Peter DeLuise sang the Jump backup vocals to the opening theme song, while Holly Robinson Peete sang the lead.
Something when we meet you at school. Say jump down on Jump Street. Say jump down on Jump Street.
As Johnny Depp became increasingly frustrated with the series, and if you have been following his career, he did get increasingly frustrated with 21 Jump Street. He began to put forth ridiculous suggestions for his character to the producers. One such suggestion included the discovery by the other characters that Tom Hansen was obsessed with peanut butter. You gotta love peanut butter, it's yummy. This is later touched upon in the movie, as we'll go into a bit later, the film starring Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill. 103 episodes, stemming 4 years. And A Big Disease with a Little Name and How I Saved the Senator are probably people's favourite episodes in 21 Jump Street. In 1990, he wanted to play against type. Understandable, really. He was Wade Walker, the lead of a gang of drapes, aka greasers. In 1950s Baltimore, a bad boy with a heart of gold wins the love of a good girl whose boyfriend sets out for revenge. Directed by John Waters, and we all know John Waters.
Yeah. Hi, I'm John Waters, and this is The Creep.
So Iggy Pop is in this one, Cry Baby. You gotta love Iggy Pop. We're going to mention a lot of musicians today, actually, because Johnny Depp does work with a lot of musicians. So Iggy Pop is in this, as well as Ricky Lake. Remember Ricky Lake? I used to be mad on her show, Ricky Lake. Nuts. Rebel Without a Cause-esque, this film, Cry Baby. Rebel Without a Cause has got a little bit of that to it. Johnny Depp singing in this is truly remarkable. Well, he's dubbed. Don't want to break your heart, but he's dubbed in this. And there's lots of 50s tunes that you'll recognise and you'll love. Johnny Depp hates to dance, but Waters convinced him to dance for the role, for the film. Although the tattoo of the name Crybaby on Johnny Depp's arm is a fake, the Native American tattoo above is real. I do love Johnny Depp's tattoos as well. So continuing with 1990, also brought you Edward Scissorhands. As I say, Edward Scissorhands. Edward is an artificially created human who is almost completed with blades for hands. And it's a nice nod to Freddy Krueger, actually. I only thought about it writing this up. It's a nice nod to Freddy Krueger. Romantic, dark, fantasy film. I love how Depp is sensitive. You know, he's artistic and he's just a lovely character. A gentleman with scissors for hands is brought into a new community after living in isolation. Directed by Tim Burton. Their first collaboration together. As we know, Tim Burton has a massive man crush on Johnny Depp, but don't we all, eh? We all have a bit of a man crush on Johnny Depp. Because he's always in his pictures, isn't he? So, we can all picture the black outfit, the white face, the makeup, and the black hair. Edward Scissorhands. Johnny Depp starred alongside then-girlfriend Winona Ryder, with Diane West, Anthony Michael Hall, Vincent Price. Bloody hell, Vincent Price as well. Oh, I love Vinny. Edward says only 169 words in the film. 169. The idea for the movie was inspired by a drawing Tim Burton had done when he was a teenager. The drawing depicted a thin, solemn man with long, sharp blades for fingers. Burton stated that he was often alone and had trouble retaining friendships. Aww. Johnny Depp had to lose a reported £25 for the role of Edward Scissorhands, and Johnny Depp also stated that he cried like a baby when he first read the script, which is completely understandable. Now, he was in a music video next as Eddie Rebel in Into the Great Wide Open, the late Tom Petty's band, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, in 1991.
Eddie waited till he finished high school. He went to Hollywood, got a tattoo.
Ah, see, I knew it. He reappeared in Nightmare on Elm Street. He was a guy on the TV in Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. I told you. He played Axel Blackmar in Arizona Dream, a surrealistic movie in 1993. But hey, Jerry Lewis is in it too, as Leo Sweetie. Hello, Sweetie. A young New Yorker goes to Arizona where he finds freedom to both love and dream. The backing music used in the dinner party scene with Axel Depp is a piece by jazz musician Django Reinhardt. The same piece was used in the Riverdance scene in Chocolat 2000, where it's performed on guitar by Johnny Depp. So that's the link there with Arizona Dream and Chocolat. Chocolate. The same year, in 1993, he was Sam, a cinephile, in Benny and June. You'll recognise him wearing his hat, well, a fedora, my lady, long hair, and his slacks, his suspenders, with a loose tie and a shirt. A mentally ill young woman finds her love in an eccentric man who models himself after Buster Keaton. And Depp did so much research on Buster Keaton. And I love Buster Keaton. Definitely check out some of his stuff if you are into... He was just a maverick. All of the stunts that he did were completely spellbinding. So he researched Buster Keaton, but he also researched Charlie Chaplin as well.
Damn, Lisa, I'm begging you!
He almost absorbed the features from Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin in this film. And National Lampoon director Jeremiah S. Chernick was behind the camera for Benny and June. So Johnny Depp did all of his own stunts for the physical comedy sequence in the park himself. In order to make it seem as if he's an inexperienced writer, Johnny Depp used his left hand in the writing sequence. Being right-handed himself, using his left hand gave off the squiggly impressions of a child's writing. So we're still in the year 1993. I think we're stuck here in the year 1993. One of my personal favourites, What's Eating Gilbert Grape? What's Eating Gilbert Grape? After his father's death, Gilbert has to care for his mentally disabled brother, Arnie, and his morbidly obese mother, which is suddenly challenged when love walks into his life. Leonardo DiCaprio should have won an Oscar for this role as Arnie. He really should have, playing a disabled boy perfectly and respectfully. Darlene Cates, Juliette Lewis, Mary Steenburgen, John C. Reilly, Crispin Glover, so many famous faces in this one. Chocolat director, the Cider House Rules director, Lasse Hallström, was behind the lens for What's Eating Gilbert Grape. And this is quite sad, really. Johnny Depp felt bad about having to ridicule Darlene Cates, his character, Mama, and would often apologise to her after shooting. Depp once said to Cates, "Man, I want you to know how much I hated having to say those lines about you. What about your character?" Johnny Depp admitted that he got easily irritated by co-star Leonardo DiCaprio during filming of the movie. In an interview, Depp said, "It was a hard time for me, that film. For some reason, I don't know why, I tortured him. I really did. He was always talking about these video games, you know, and I told you it was kind of a dark period for me." It's worth a watch. It's great to see young Depp and young Leonardo DiCaprio, so do check it out. Now, bit of a side note. Now, in 1993, River Phoenix died of an overdose outside Johnny Depp's Viper Room club on the Sunset Strip. Obviously, it put him in a lot of hot water and it affected Depp tremendously. Now, at this point, if you are a fan of River Phoenix, be sure to check out the video I made about him called Evolution of the River Phoenix movie. You might enjoy it. You can check it out after this video if you like, if you're a fan of River Phoenix. I also did a radio special about the man, and it's available through my Mixcloud, which should be linked in the description. So we're here already. 1994. Ed Wood. First things first, Ed Wood sounded like such a remarkable and unique man. He truly did. Known for being unfairly pinned as the worst director of all time, he made such films as Plan 9 from Outer Space and Orgy of the Dead. Now, because Depp loves these roles, it was perfect for him to play this part as Ed Wood. Not a lot is known about Ed Wood, but I have been reading The Secret World of Johnny Depp by Nigel Goodall. It's worth a read. So that's The Secret World of Johnny Depp by Nigel Goodall. And Johnny talks about feeling a closeness to Ed, respected him as a person when endeavouring the project. And Johnny Depp saw parallels in his own life with Ed Wood's life, which I thought was really sweet. So Tim Burton was back, which is a good start. Ambitious but troubled movie director Edward D. Wood Jr. tries his best to fulfil his dream despite his lack of support. Sarah Jessica Parker would play Ed's wife, Dolores. Martin Landau, I think he won an Oscar for portraying Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi. And we always manage to talk about Bela Lugosi in these videos. We always manage to do it somehow. So Bill Murray was Bunny. He played Bunny. And Patricia Arquette was in it too. One day, Kathy Wood, the wife of Edward D. Wood Jr., visited the set and asked to meet Johnny Depp. That day, they were filming a scene where Wood would look really messed up, which made Burton nervous for what Kathy would think of the movie. When Depp exited his trailer, she said, "That's my Eddie. That's my Eddie." Johnny Depp's Hollywood house overlooking his nightclub, the Viper Room, was previously owned by Bela Lugosi as well. So there's another link to Bela Lugosi. This year, Johnny would play Don Juan DeMarco in the film of the same name. A psychiatrist must cure a young patient that presents himself as Don Juan, the greatest lover in the world. Lord Byron wrote it. Now, he's known not just for being a ladies' man, but for the ghost stories he wrote with Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley, and John Polidori, where Frankenstein was created. Frankenstein was born in these ghost stories. So, writer turned director Jeremy Levin did Don Juan with Marlon Brando as Dr. Jack Milkler, Faye Dunaway, and he's kind of like a Zorro here in this film. He's like a Zorro-esque type person. He's got the hypnotic power. You sense it while you're watching the film. Depp has this hypnotic portrayal about him, which will just have you on the wraps like that. According to Johnny Depp on the Turner Classic Movie documentary on Marlon Brando, in the scene where he and Brando are sitting at the table talking about the inconsistencies in DeMarco's character, when DeMarco admits his father was from New York, Depp's lines were rewritten just before shooting the scenes, so he had no time to prepare and memorise the lines. Yeah, so you get me so far. So Marlon Brando talked to the director and cinematographer to find out where the cameras and angles were. He then worked out a way in which he could cut up Depp's lines in the script and pasted them on the cup of coffee in his hand, and then held the cup in his hand in such a way the camera wouldn't pick up the pasted lines and Depp could read them. How much of a sweet man is Marlon Brando for doing that? Putting the script on his cup for Depp. And they did bond a lot on set, both Brando and Depp. According to Johnny, the hardest part about working with Marlon was keeping a straight face, because they were laughing so much and having a good old time, which is the best. If you're working on a film, it's best to keep the spirits up. Next, he played an accountant from Cleveland, William Blake, in 1995's Deadman. And Depp doesn't half like this black and white feel to his movies. Iggy Pop joined Johnny again, alongside John Hurt, Robert Mitchum, Crispin Glover, making his second appearance alongside Depp too. On the run after murdering a man, accountant William Blake encounters a strange North American man named Nobody, who prepares him for his journey into the spiritual world. Now, it's shot kind of like Ed Wood, and it feels like it shouldn't be in the 90s. It feels like it should be in the 50s. And that idea is a bit of a trope for Johnny. He does like these films which look like they're set in the 50s, but they're actually set in the 90s. So it's psychedelic. It's like a psychedelic western. And people have suggested that William Blake is in purgatory throughout the whole movie, which puts a different spin on the film entirely. So the same year, he was Gene Watson in The Nick of Time. He played another accountant. A mild-mannered, widowed accountant this time. An unimpressive, everyday man is forced into a situation where he is told to kill a politician to save his kidnapped daughter. So Saturday Night Fever director John Badham was behind Nick of Time, and it's a great plot. It's very Hitchcockian. The director got an awful lot of influence from Alfred Hitchcock. I actually love Huey, the character Huey in this too. I think he's such a badass. I want him to be my friend. So Christopher Walken and Nip Tuck's Roma Mafia star in Nick of Time. 90% of the stunts were done by Depp himself. What a man. What a man. Everything from the elaborate fight sequence to the daring 90-foot cable fall. Now, another favourite of mine, Donnie Brasco, 1997. Johnny was the lead. Donnie. I love the plot, sincerely. An FBI undercover agent infiltrates the mob and finds himself identifying more with the mafia life at the expense of his regular one. I just wish they took more time with the plot, though. I do think they should have. I thought they should have expanded the plot a little bit more with regards to the meeting of both the characters, like Goodfellas, you know. So big cast. We got Al Pacino, Michael Madsen, James Russo with Johnny Depp, and Michael Newell was behind Lantz. He did 4 Weddings and a Funeral, Harry Potter. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. He's got some movie credit, but it's such a weird kind of thing, going from 4 Weddings and a Funeral and Harry Potter to go into Donnie Brasco. It's a strange link, isn't it? So it's a great gangster flick. I'm sorry I'm laughing here. Great gangster flick with a wonderful spin on it. It's a bit of a great spin on the gangster flick. To prepare for his role, Johnny Depp met with the actual Joseph D. Piston several times and took shooting lessons from the FBI. Most of the time, they lifted weights together. So according to Paul Antanzio, Johnny Depp's 1994 arrest for destroying a hotel room helped him get cast because people thought he was dark and dangerous. What I noticed about Johnny Depp, he's the master of the leads. He's the master of the lead roles, playing the protagonist. So before we got the Lone Ranger, there was The Brave, 1997, directed by Johnny Depp himself. Johnny Depp also directed an untitled Keith Richards documentary in 2016, Stuff, a TV short, in 1993, and The Brave, which also starred Marlon Brando as McCarthy. So in The Brave, a down-on-his-luck American Indian recently released from jail is offered the chance to star as the victim of a snuff film, the resulting pay of which could greatly help his poverty-stricken family. So Depp was deeply upset at the negative reviews by American critics attending an otherwise successful screening at the Cannes Film Festival. As a result, he refused to release the film in the US. I think that's kind of sad, though, isn't it, really? So Depp's only acting role in 1998 was Raoul Duke in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Viva Las Vegas! He does not look strange in this. Take a look at him. He looks so strange. His big orange glasses, his white hat, his wide eyes, and his grin and colourful shirts. So Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, was directed by Terry Gilliam, who is best known for Time Bandits, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So, wow. Terry Gilliam. An oddball journalist and his psychopathic lawyer travel to Las Vegas for a series of psychedelic escapades. I want to go to Las Vegas for a series of psychedelic escapades, to be honest. Where was my invite? I didn't get it. I didn't get the memo. So, 2 Tom Jones songs are in this one. She's a Lady. She's a Lady. And It's Not Unusual. Don't be doing the Carlton dance. So, Tom Jones's She's a Lady and It's Not Unusual feature in. And if you've do follow Depp closely, you'll know a few Tom Jones songs are featured in his films on a few occasions. And there's lots and lots and lots and lots of glorious faces in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, like Tobey Maguire, Benicio del Toro, Christina Ricci, Cameron Diaz, Gary Busey. The list is endless. So Hunter S. Thompson shaved Johnny Depp's head. They were in Thompson's kitchen and Depp refused to look in a mirror, and Thompson wore a miner's hard hat. So according to Johnny Depp, the gorilla statue outside the Bazooka Circus now lives in his front yard. The gorilla statue. At this point, I must give a massive plug to my Johnny Depp special, available on my Mixcloud. The link should be below. The next one is a funny one, and it's just what we needed, really. Just what we needed at this point. He popped up in The Vicar of Dibley TV series in 1999. Red Nose Day appearance. We have the Righteous Brothers, Unchained Melody playing in the background. Dawn French, aka Geraldine, makes a fool out of herself while Johnny opens his trailer door.
I'm Geraldine, I'm Vicar. Hi.
The same year, 1999, he was a very busy man. The Ninth Gate as Dean Corso. A New York City rare book dealer makes his living conning people into selling him valuable antique books for a low
Prince
price.
of Darkness in person.
The astronaut's wife. He was Commander Spencer Armacost, a NASA astronaut with his wife Charlize Theron.
A severe insult to the brain.
He's not your husband anymore. He's not.
So Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow was the biggest one of that year. New York City Police Constable Ichabod Crane. Crane is sent to Sleepy Hollow to investigate the decapitations of 3 people, with the culprit being the legendary apparition, the Headless Horseman. Director Tim Burton. Starring, well, he partners again with Christina Ricci here. Christopher Walken again. Teamed up for the first time with Michael Gambon, into Gambon, and Christopher Lee. Johnny Depp adopted Goldeneye, the horse that played Gunpowder, Crane's horse in the film, when he heard it was going to be put down. Oh, he's just such a nice man, isn't he? He's such a lovely man. Historically, Crane was a very unattractive man. Johnny Depp offered to add prosthetics to his face to make him look ugly, but Tim Burton wanted to base the character on Crane's more unattractive personality traits, his reported squeamishness and eccentricity. It's a gothic supernatural horror film, a thrill ride from start to finish, with a twist ending, and it's just what you expect with Burton. Really strange. So in 2000, he was in The Man Who Cried. He was Caesar, a mysterious performing horseman, a gypsy.
Chazar for me is a guy who is not particularly comfortable in the world of humans. I think he's more comfortable at the very base level. You know, he's comfortable with his horse or with animals which are pure beings. You know, pure, innocent, honest.
He was in Before Night Falls, an American biographical, as Bonbon, Lieutenant Victor. I also like saying that name, Bonbon. Bonbon. Another funny one here, like Vicar of Dibley, but this time another UK show, The Fast Show, starring Paul Whitehouse and Charlie Higson and Mark Williams. Very famous scene. Oh, suit you, sir. Oh. Johnny Depp is a customer, and he really gets into this sketch. It's really fantastic. Do check it out. Check out the full version when you have the time after the video. Chocolat was the one after, or as we say, chocolate. A woman and her daughter open a chocolate shop in a small French village that shakes up the rigid morality of the community. I fancy some chocolate now. I want some chocolate. Director Lasse Hallström was back. If you remember him, he did What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Juliette Binoche, who I love in Dan in Real Life, is in Chocolat, as well as Judi Dench. Depp played Rue, another gypsy. So he's played two gypsies now, or a traveller, if you prefer that. So he played a gypsy and a traveller second time round. Although Johnny Depp lived in France at the time of filming, he doesn't appear in any of the scenes shot in France. Johnny Depp plays guitar in this movie in 3 scenes and also does 2 songs on the soundtrack, the first and last tracks. In 2001, he was George. Can I speak to him? No, he's dead. George Chung in Blow. B-L-O-W, Blow. The story of George Chung, along with the Medellin cartel, headed by Pablo Escobar, established the American cocaine market in the 1970s in the United States. Typical drug story, very typical drug story here. He's got his long blonde hair in this. Great soundtrack in Blow. We have the Rolling Stones, Booker T and the MGs, Bob Dylan, Paul Anka, Louis Armstrong, Cream, Bruce Springsteen, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and Casey and the Sunshine Band. Jesus Christ! Oh my good gracious. So, definitely the soundtrack of Blow is worth a mention. So, to prepare for the role, Depp interviewed the real George Chung in prison. So, like Donnie Brasco, he does like to get proper have an interview with the characters he's playing. A lot of Johnny Depp's dialogue was improvised, including the scene where they're trying to find a place to put all the money from selling coke, and his line, "We're gonna need a bigger boat," was ad-libbed. Inspector Frederick Aberline, From Hell, the comic book turned movie. In Victorian-era London, a troubled clairvoyant police detective investigates the murders by Jack the Ripper. The murder. There's been a murder. Book of Eli director Albert Hughes was behind From Hell. So the cast, Heather Graham, yes. Robbie Coltrane, yes. Jason Fleming, I know from Primeval. Leslie Sharp, I love too, so much. I love Leslie Sharp. Depp loves his dark stuff, his conspiracies and his supernatural stuff. So he took to this like a duck takes to water. Johnny Depp's character was based on a real person, Inspector Frederick Aberline of Scotland Yard. In this film, there's a bit of a sad ending for Depp in this. I won't spoil it for you here, so there'll be no spoilers in this one. But it's quite sad. He had a 1-year absence. He did interviews mostly for this before his biggest role to date. Jack Sparrow. Captain Jack Sparrow. First of 5 movies from 2003 to 2017. Why is rum always gone?
Why is rum gone?
1, because it is a vile drink that turns even the most respectable men into complete scoundrels. 2.
Johnny Depp will always be known as Captain Jack Sparrow. He nailed it. As a lot of people know, he based his performance on Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones.
Basically, everybody's together to cut the tracks.
And Looney Tunes character Pepe Le Pew. Absolutely awesome. He is truly fantastic. He's so funny and almost like an anti-hero. He steals every scene and you're on his side throughout the whole films, throughout the whole franchise. He later appears in the sequels, and we're so glad it came along when it did. After being, the film was inspired by a Disney theme park ride of the same name, and he's just our favourite captain. He's our favourite pirate, Captain Jack Sparrow. Director Gore Verbinski, who has a bit of a man crush on Johnny Depp as well. He's appeared in 2 of his movies with Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom They both feature heavily in Pirates of the Caribbean. Johnny Depp improvised Jack Sparrow's catchphrase, savvy. Johnny Depp wore contact lenses which served as sunglasses, so he wouldn't be squinting in the sun all the time. Originally, Johnny Depp wanted Jack Sparrow to have no nose and be afraid of silly things like pepper and the common cold. Disney rejected the idea. There's a small scab on Jack Sparrow's chin that gets bigger and bigger throughout the movie. The makeup artist and Johnny Depp did it on purpose as a prank. Whilst he was Jack Sparrow, he was also Sands in Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Once Upon a Time in Mexico. CIA agent Sheldon Sands. Director Robert Rodriguez, who was known for From Dusk Till Dawn. It stars Antonio Banderas, Salma Hayek and Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp shot all of his scenes in 8 days and wrote his own theme music. That's pretty impressive. In 2004, Secret Window was next. Another personal one of mine, as More Rainy. I think this is another great movie. Depp rocking the glasses. We have a Stephen King novel. The plot: a writer is accused of plagiarism by a strange man who then starts haunting him for justice. And it's a strange movie, and there is a bit of a reveal at the end. So it's definitely worth a watch. In the scene where Depp bursts into Mario Bello and Timothy Hutton in the motel, David Coop wanted Bello and Hutton to look shocked and scared. He made them both lie in the bed for 15 minutes before Depp rushed in. The production crew set up large speakers that blurred static noise when the script called for them being scared. The lights in the room were also rigged to go off when Johnny Depp opened the door, startling the actors further. No one knew exactly how to act. So Johnny Depp's line, "This is not my beautiful house, this is not my beautiful wife anymore," is taken from the Talking Heads song, Once in a Lifetime. I love that song. Johnny wanted to dip back into TV. So in 2004, Mike Judge of King of the Hill TV series put him in the animation as Yogi Victor in an episode called Hank's Back Episode. And he's a yoga instructor. He loves the ladies.
Let me tell you a story. Once I was like you, skeptical, nearsighted, punchy. Then I met a special friend.
He had a cute cameo in And They Lived Happily Ever After, where he's listening to Radiohead, Creep. And we have that very famous kiss scene, which isn't actually a kiss scene, but we'll call it a kiss scene. Speaking of living happily ever after, you never guess what was next. Finding Neverland. Depp played Sir James Matthew Barry. Sir James Matthew Barry. A Scottish writer, J.M. Barrie. The story of J.M. Barrie's friendship with a family who inspired him to create Peter Pan. The film was nominated for several Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Actor for Johnny Depp. Mark Foster directed this one. He also did World War Z, and Stranger Than Fiction. There's a big A-list cast in Finding Neverland. We have Johnny Depp, Kate Winslet, Dustin Hoffman, Radha Mitchell, but young Freddie Highmore. Yep, as Peter. There was even a meme that got very, very popular from there was a scene in the film which became a meme, and it's Depp hugging Highmore, and they're so funny. Check out some of the memes from. It's actually, I shouldn't laugh, but I do. During the formal dinner scene, Johnny Depp placed a fart machine under Julie Christie's chair. He had a remote control that he used to trigger a fart sound from the device. The children are laughing more at that than from playing with the spoons in the scene. So Johnny Depp put a fart machine under one of the actresses' chairs. He played Rochester the same year, 2004, in The Libertine. The story of John Wilmot, aka the Earl of Rochester, a 17th century poet who famously drank and debauched his way to an early grave. only to earn posthumous critical acclaim for his life's work. It's weird seeing Depp in this. His face was quite scary, actually. It is really creepy. Take a look at it. Very creepy. He's got that long hair and that fake attached nose. It's really crazy. A scene was deleted that included a kiss between Johnny Depp and Rupert Friend. This just made me laugh. £6,890 was spent on vegetable oil based smoke and fog, and £3,672 went into making elegantly carved 17th century dildos. Carved 17th century dildos. That's the sentence of the day. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, 2005, the remake of the classic Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971. Mel Stewart's film starring the late magnificent Gene Wilder. It must have been such hard work for Johnny Depp to overcome the legacy around that character, portrayed magnificently by Gene Wilder. And they're both very different variations entirely of Willy Wonka. They've said the 2005 version is closer to the book by Roald Dahl, which is something. The 2005 version is directed by Tim Burton. We mentioned him so much today. Depp once stated in an interview that he based his Willy Wonka performance on how he imagined former US President George W. Bush would act while stoned. Depp used game show hosts as well as children's television hosts such as Fred Rogers as his inspiration for his performance as Willy Wonka. He's also said in interviews that Willy Wonka would be a part of Howard Hughes' reclusive, part 1970s glamorous rock star. Johnny was in his first animation, come 2005, as Victor Van Dort in Corpse Bride. When a shy groom practices his wedding vows in the inadvertent presence of a deceased young woman, she rises from the grave, assuming he has married her. Danny Elfman was on the soundtrack. Danny Elfman is just a star. Depp rejoined Christopher Lee and even Paul Whitehouse, and he got to work with Helena Bonham Carter, the lovely Joanna Lumley, and Albert Finney in Corpse Bride. In the beginning of the movie, Victor, voiced by Johnny Depp, of course, releases a captive butterfly through a window. Depp's character, Ichabod Crane, does something very similar in Sleepy Hollow, 1999, when he released a caged cardinal out of his bedroom window. So a little bit of a reference there between two films. He was in another music video too, God's Gonna Cut You Down, by the legend Johnny Cash. He returned as our favourite pirate in games and then two movies on the go, Dead Man's Chest and At World's End.
What are you doing? Captain gives orders on the ship. The captain of the ship is given orders. My ship makes me captain. They be my charts. That makes you chart man. Stow it! Not both of you! That's an order! Understand?
Up to no good as always, but you're just drawn to him in every scene because he's amazing, isn't he? He mingled with Helena Bonham Carter again in such an amazing story I love dearly, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Lending his voice to the role of Sweeney Todd.
In a merry mood today, Mr. Todd?
'Tis your delights are catching fire from one man to the next.
'Tis true, as our love can still inspire the blood to pound the heartly pyre. What more can
The infamous story of Benjamin Barker, aka Sweeney Todd, who set up a barbershop down in London, which is the basis for a sinister partnership with his fellow tenant, Miss Lovett, based on the hit Broadway musical. There's a definitive sadness to him here I get in this film, even though he is killing folk.
Pretty women, sir, pretty women.
Burton, that's all we're gonna say. The late great Alan Rickman was in Sweeney Todd. Timothy Spall too, with funny man Sacha Baron Cohen, who's just a method actor in my eyes. I love Sacha Baron Cohen. It won an Academy Award for Best Production Design in 2008, and to prepare for the role, Johnny Depp had recorded demo tapes of himself in West Hollywood working with an old friend and music producer, Bruce Witkin, to shape his own vocals without a voice coach. Yeah, he did pop up in SpongeBob SquarePants. After that, he was in the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. It's a big movie, really, A, because of Heath Ledger's passing away during making the movie, but also B, this is the first time I've seen Depp step back a bit. He's not the lead. He's not being front and centre. He's just a little bit in the film. This is the first time. Old friend director Terry Gilliam. And Tony changes his face between Ledger, Depp, Jude Law and Colin Farrell. Christopher Plummer is the Doctor. Not that Doctor you may be thinking of. The Doctor. He also changes his appearance as well. Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell and Jude Law gave all the income they received for this movie to Heath Ledger's daughter, Matilda, so that her economic future would be secure. And I think that's a really nice statement from them all. It's really lovely. Now, the last of 2009, Public Enemies. Another big one. A mob hit. As bank robber John Dillinger. The feds tried to take down notorious American gangsters John Dillinger, Babyface Nelson and Pretty Boy Floyd during a booming crime wave in the 1930s. Michael Mann took the reins. Johnny Depp went to the John Dillinger Museum in Indiana and was allowed to read some of his letters. According to Depp in the DVD documentary, he even tried on the pants Dillinger wore the night he was shot. With a laugh, Depp said, "The pants fit him perfectly." While filming on location in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a boy aged 11... Oh, this is so sweet. While filming on location on Oshkosh, Wisconsin, a boy aged 11 told Johnny Depp he loved his fedora hat and would like to have one like it. Depp told the boy he would see what he could do about that. After filming finished, Depp sent the boy the hat in the mail. Oh, it's just so sweet. Oh, it's so sweet. 2010 put Johnny in the shoes of the Mad Hatter in Alice in Wonderland.
Alice, you're terribly late, you know. Naughty.
The same year, he was Frank Geppetto in The Tourist, a film notoriously panned by Ricky Gervais. Starred Johnny with our Angie, and Angelina Jolie, and Timothy Dalton. It revolves around Frank, an American tourist visiting Italy to mend a broken heart. Elise is an extraordinary woman who deliberately crosses his path. He stepped into his second animation picture, Rango, which I loved. Most of the voice acting was recorded on a set, with the actors voicing their characters while performing with their fellow cast members. This enabled performance to follow the rhythms of their co-stars, while also giving them the room for improvisation. The same thing was done for Shark Tale, apparently. And I actually like the idea of letting your actors all gather together and do the recording yourselves. I think that's a really good idea. So Jack was back on Stranger Tides in 2011. He was Paul Kemp in The Rum Diary. Why is rum always gone? Wrong film. American journalist Paul Kemp takes on a freelance job in Puerto Rico for a local newspaper during the 1960s and struggles to find a balance between island culture and the expats who live there. He was with ex-wife Amber Heard. Johnny Depp suspended his sobriety for this film in order to experience the effects of liquors depicted. In 2011, he was in an awful movie called Jack and Jill. You may have seen it. 2011, he made friends with Ricky Gervais and featured in Life's Too Short, a TV series where Depp played himself. He had an amazing cameo in the end of the hilarious TV show turned movie 21 Jump Street. It was perfect, as he was all in his disguise as a biker trying to get to the bottom of a case, and you only see him at the end. It was so well done how he's subtly in there at the start and he takes his mask off. It is so brilliant. It's a great nod to the TV show which Depp was so much a part of. There were so many nods to Depp's character too. It's unbelievable, really. Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill and Ice Cube did such a good job on 21 Jump Street. Even the sequel was fantastic. I even loved 22 Jump Street. It was only a matter of time for Johnny to be in a vampire flick, and it came about in 2012. He was Barnabas Collins. I just love that name, Barnabas. I'm going to call my son Barnabas. Barnabas. An imprisoned vampire is set free and returns to his ancestral home, where his dysfunctional descendants are in need of his protection. It's dark. I don't need to tell you who directed it. It's funny.
Was awakened by a yellow dragon with iron teeth, confronted by a giant letter M with the luminance of 1,000 lanterns.
Horror comedy film based on gothic television soap opera of the same name, Dark Shadows. So many famous faces in here. Honestly, just look at them all. Jesus wept, there's just so many. It's crazy. So in Dark Shadows, in 1760, the Collins family moves from Liverpool, England to Maine. Liverpool. I just want to mention that because it just made me giddy. So to prepare for his role, Johnny Depp undertook a weight loss regime and a diet of green tea and low sugar fruit, getting his weight down to 140 pounds, so 10 stone. And Depp was a huge fan of Dark Shadows 1966 when he was a child as well, which it was based off of. Another music video came about. How many have we had so far? We've had Tom Petty, check. Johnny Cash, check. Now, Paul McCartney. Speaking of Liverpool, Paul McCartney in 2012, My Valentine. The album, Paul McCartney's Kisses on the Bottom. I just like saying that name. Kisses on the Bottom album. And then a small tiny bit in Family Guy was the last thing of 2012 as Edward Scissorhands. Harken back to the days of the brave, we got the Lone Ranger come 2013. Disney. He played Tonto, famous for having the crow on his head, his bandana, white makeup with the black lines on it. Native American warrior, Tonto recounts the untold tales that transformed John Reed, a man of the law, into a legend of justice. Ooh, yes. Director, Gore Verbinski. You recognise that name from Pirates of the Caribbean. It wasn't too well received, which is it's a crying shame, but a lot of people do like the endings. We think it's fantastic. In an interview, Johnny Depp thanked his stunt horse, Scout, for saving his life after a violent fall during filming. Tonto means fool in Spanish and Italian. In Spanish versions of the film, Tonto is renamed Toro, which means bull. Johnny Depp's makeup and costume were inspired by artist Kirby Sattler's painting, I Am Crow. He was the missing Matthew Smith in indie film Lucky Them, 2013, which circulated the film festivals for a bit. Next year, 2014, a scientist's drive for artificial intelligence takes on dangerous implications when his consciousness is uploaded into one such program. He was Will Castor. Very philosophical film. Think AI, the movie AI by Steven Spielberg. What happens to Johnny in this will blow your damn mind, honestly. Do check it out. Check out this film, Transcendence. There are twists and shouts, and no spoilers here. There are no spoilers in this video. I'll simply talk about how phenomenal Johnny Depp is in this film. On this current theme of blowing your mind, Depp dipped his toes into body horror. Body horror. He was Guy Lapointe, former Château Quebec inspector, meaning provincial police force for the Canadian province of Quebec, in Tusk 2014. Before we talk about this, if you're into your body horror, if you're into your weird films, Tusk is there for you. Tusk. Unbelievable. Just watch it. Tusk. It's crazy. Directed by the one, the only Kevin Smith. Starring all grown up Harley Joel Osment. Boy that did I See Dead People. With Justin Long who I think is an underrated actor. He's very, very good, Justin Long. He's barely unrecognisable in Tusk. Like 21 Jump Street, you know, when he's all disguised, but this time he's not disguised. He's just an officer. So, a brash and arrogant podcaster gets more than he bargained for when he travels to Canada to interview a mysterious recluse who is rather disturbing fondness for walruses. You need to watch this film. Oh my god! If you're a fan of mad bat fudge movies. Oh my god, it's such a weird experience. So Quentin Tarantino was offered the role of Guy, which Johnny Depp plays. And if you're a fan of Quentin Tarantino, I have made a video about him. You can check it out if you like, if you fancy. So Kevin Smith and Johnny Depp's daughters play clerks in this film, and it's actually a genuinely nice kind of heartwarming scene to see them both in it, be clerks. It's really good. So 2014, continuing these crazy roles, he was a wolf. A wolf. A wolf in Into the Woods. Johnny did something next he has never ever done before in his whole tenure of being an actor. It's star in an action comedy. Lord Charlie Mordecai, an unscrupulous art dealer and swindler, juggling angry Russians, the British MI5, and an international terrorist, debonair art dealer and part-time rogue Charlie Mordecai races to recover a stolen painting rumoured to contain a code that leads to lost gold. Gold. Kind of reminds you of something that Jack Sparrow would be after. Here's some funny scenes for you to make you smile and brighten your day.
Respected by all who know me slightly.
Excellent shot, sir!
Man down! I am an art dealer, an aficionado.
He was barely recognisable again as Whitey Bulger in Black Mass 2015. Would you believe it, in 2016 he was Donald J. Trump in a TV movie. Back as the Mad Hatter in the sequel to Alice in Wonderland. He was finally in Harry Potter. He got the call, he finally in there, well not properly, but he was Gellert Grindelwald. He was considered to be arguably one of the most dangerous dark wizards of all time. A student at Durmstrang Institute, Grindelwald was expelled for twisted dark experiments and near fatal attacks on his fellow students. He later fostered a friendship with a young Albus Dumbledore, but he features in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them 2016. He revisited the role of Captain Jack Sparrow in Deadman Tell No Tales 2017. Now we're getting close, aren't we? And he was kicking ass as always in Deadman Tell No Tales. His last music video venture was with friend Marilyn Manson in his music video Say 10. The last thing I saw Johnny in was Murder on the Orient Express 2017 as Ratchet. So the future, what's the future we have in store for Johnny Depp 2018, 2019? So Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald. He's going to be in a film called Sherlock Gnomes 2018, Sherlock Gnomes. He's also going to be in Richard Says Goodbye, Labyrinth as Russell Poole, The Invisible Man. I'm really looking forward to the new Invisible Man he's going to be in. It's been announced, and it's been announced that he's going to be in Libertine as well. And if you have enjoyed the video, be sure, well thank you first of all, but be sure to check out my Facebook page, facebook.com/Richard Isles Radio Show, ISLES. And I do movie specials every single week, and actor specials mostly now. It's so much fun. I would be honoured to have your company over there. I have done a Johnny Depp special we mentioned earlier. Check it out through my Mixcloud account, and you can actually listen to other shows I've done if you're free to check it out. I just want to thank you so much for watching. It means the world. Thank you so much.